If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump, for the first 41 minutes, we have fun. We do a lot of introductory conversation.
Real fun.
After 41 minutes, we get into the fitness talk. But here's what we talked about in the beginning part of this episode. We start out by talking about liquid death.
Liquid death.
This stuff has killed more people than anything ever in the history of the world.
And we're selling it.
It's water.
Yeah.
But it comes in a really cool can. You got to check out their Instagram. It's hilarious. Then we give our little recap of our trips. I went to the Grand Canyon with Justin, Doug, and our families. Good times. Adam went to, where'd you go again, Adam? Lake Tahoe.
Truckee, yep.
Truckee, yep. You went there with your friend. We tell some stories about how fun it was on vacation. Then we talked about traveling with kids. It's not that fun. Then we talked about Endgame and the box office record that they just sent. And then we talk about
Smashing.
J.J. Abrams, Justin's other favorite producer.
I love that guy.
Then we get
Come on our show.
The fitness part of this episode. The first fitness question, what is a great exercise to get arm definition? If you want to know the secret exercise to guarantee arm definition, listen to that part of this episode.
You're going to have to pay $50 behind our paid wall.
The next question was hammer strength machines versus free weights. This is a good machines versus free weights conversation. The next question, for someone who is perpetually yo-yo dieted, how do you get to a place where their hunger is regulated? Hunger is what prevents everybody from getting to their fitness goals, or at least I should say cravings. We give our tips on how to help regulate that.
Got to hang up that yo-yo.
And the final question, in our opinion, what is a good career path in the future that includes health, nutrition, and fitness? So if you're somebody that wants to work with health, fitness, and nutrition, where should you start placing your focus in terms of your career? Also, it's the final hours. Ends at midnight, 50% off MAPS Split. This is our bodybuilder split program.
Holy spicoli.
If you're listening to this episode when it gets released, lucky you still have time to get 50% off. Here's what you do. Go to MAPS Split, MAPSSPLIT.com, and use the code SPLIT50, SPLIT50 for that discount. Hurry up. Do it now.
Run. T-shirt time.
And it's T-shirt time.
Oh, shit, Doug. You know this is my favorite time of the week.
So we've had quite a few excellent reviews this week. We have 3 winners for iTunes. We've got Drops of Jules, Brit147, DC Christine. You're all winners. On Facebook, we have Caitlin Buckley, Maria Silva Vega, Katie Johnson, Trevor Ottman, Joanna Caswell. All of you are winners. Send the name I just read to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com. Send your shirt size, your shipping address, include your Instagram handle, and we'll get that shirt right out to you.
Adam, what are you drinking?
Just some basic Kirkland water.
You're a pussy.
Basic bitch.
Yeah.
What?
Bro, we just start drinking liquid death. Bro, how great is this can right
You
here?
know you want that liquid death.
How great is this can that they put the water in?
It's so fucking metal, dude. Can I just tell you how much I love the branding?
It looks like
Yeah.
I guess Adam's making the sounds like he's drinking.
Yeah. Does it taste as good as death?
Yeah, do you feel tough?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm super pumped about working with this brand. This is kudos to Taylor. I've been stroking this kid off a lot lately with his brands that he's been introducing us to. This one, I think I was most excited to show Justin because I felt like this, of all the brands that we've partnered with, I thought this brand speaks to you.
It's like my spirit animal.
Right?
But their Instagram page is hilarious.
Oh, it's so great.
I love it. But did you read the can?
Yeah, murder your thirst.
No, it says, our proprietary thirst murdering process begins with liquid death forming a rope of veins that will wrap around your thirst head and strangle it. Once liquid death reaches your thirst's brain, all of your thirst memories will be replaced with repeating loops of its own head imploding, which is exactly what happens next by it causing your thirst head to implode and its brains to squirt out of its ears. Once your thirst has been murdered, the soul of your thirst will begin to escape and float toward the ceiling.
Yeah.
At this point, Drink a second sip of liquid death to rip its soul back down and force it to begin gluing its own body parts together so that it can crawl back inside you and eventually grow into another fully formed thirst.
That's so fucking metal.
These
dude.
guys are so great.
Well,
love it.
We're laughing because it is really good.
Brilliant
but
marketing.
there is, they're disruptors in a space, which this is what I think we all connected with their CEO and why we love this brand, and just being completely transparent with our audience. Like, this is a brand play with us. Like, we know that the amount of units that we would have to sell of water to justify like an ongoing long-term sponsorship is just unrealistic. But this is something that I think we care about helping these guys out because they have a good message, a good cause. They're disruptors in their space. Their brand is dope as fuck. Yeah. And this is kind of us like introducing to our audience. And hopefully you guys all go out of support. Just literally go out and support this brand because I'm excited to see it take off. And one of the things they're doing, and I read an article, I think I mentioned it on this podcast, I might not have, in regards to plastic in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And they predicted by like 2025 or 2050, I can't remember which one it was, but not that in our lifetime, they predict that there'll be more plastic in the ocean than there will be fish. And so their big message is, liquid in a can. Yeah. And so it's just
death to plastic.
Well, right. I didn't know this, but cans are extremely recyclable, extremely easy to recycle. It's actually what's the word? Market viability in terms of the recyclability.
It's preferred.
Plastic's not.
Plastic is not. It's hard to recycle plastic. Nobody wants to recycle plastic. It's expensive. Cans are valuable, so people like to recycle them. So environmentally speaking, it's a superior product.
And then if you get nervous about BPAs and all that kind of stuff, like we've had Max Lugavere on talking about, like this is another way to kind of avoid that.
The thing that's but the can is just in the branding is I love because when you're at a party,
dude,
they made a good point. Like you're at a party and you don't want to drink alcohol.
You don't want to have a little Fiji like
no,
no, you want liquid death. Like
exactly.
Like I'm here to party with you guys, but not really. You know what I mean? Like I'm down, but like I'm conservative.
Yeah. Anyway,
well, they also they were ones responsible. They did the Organic Valley Save the Bros commercial, which was
same marketing guys,
same marketing team.
Well, did you guys see the YouTube clip, the Liquid Death one? Was it
we're
going
to put that in the show notes for everybody. Needs to go watch that. Their first video they came out with, so hilarious
with the waterboarding,
offensive. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So,
terrible.
Great disruptors in the space. Great product. Great brand. If you can go out and show support. I know they direct to consumers. By the time this goes live, the brand is up and live. So we were waiting to release this to everybody. We've kind of known about this for a while. Been excited to wait for their launch date and officially get out there. So.
Oh yeah, see it says right here the average aluminum can contains 70% recycled material. The average plastic bottle contains only 3%. It's funny because the market for water is so they play around the whole like peace and love the earth and we're natural and whatever. But they're
artesian.
But they're plastic bottles. It's like one of the biggest polluters in modern societies. Yeah. It's insane. But they play like they're not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're on to you.
Yeah.
Hey, how was you? I mean, this is first day back since everybody's trips, and you guys took the fam, including Doug, and you guys all went out to Grand Canyon, Sedona.
We were only one mind pumper short,
Yeah, it was so great, man. So we all rented a big house, and we got to hang out together, and it was great seeing the kids all play together.
Yeah,
like most of the time,
the best part.
Yeah, most of the time the kids were up. This house had an air hockey table, so there was like games going on upstairs, and they were up there playing. And then we played hide and go seek one time in the whole house, and then I read everybody a scary story one time, which was pretty fun.
Oh, you did the scary story thing?
I only read one because if I pushed it, then they would have been.
My youngest they had nightmares for a couple days.
And then it would have affected, we wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah, nobody was sleeping anyway. But,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was funny.
It was fun. One night we played Cards Against Humanity, and then we played another game that was similar.
Dude, have you played that yet, Adam?
Yeah, it's a great game.
Such a good game.
Great game. I had my son. I said, hey, do you want to come play? Because he's 13. I'm like, I'm pretty sure him and his friends say. But it was funny because some of those cards are fucking terrible.
Dude.
Yeah. Terrible.
Yeah. I was like, I couldn't like believe some of the like the descriptions of things like in the sexual like innuendo things in there. I was like, wow.
So that must have been cool for him to feel like he was a part. Did he actually come do it?
He did. He played with us for a little bit, and then but you could tell everybody was a little bit like, oh my God,
we were a little more reserved. We're like, like trying to like censor it.
Yeah, this card says jizz. I'm going to put this card back.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me read the next one. No, but
a little too far.
We went to the Grand Canyon and we did one of their easy hikes or whatever. It was still a decent hike though for the kids. But man, what a spectacular!
Now
it's
remind
insane.
me, this was your first time there?
I've never been there before.
So that was cool.
I think everybody it was, except I had been when I was like a little kid and remembered like going down on one of those donkey tours and everything. But that was like so long ago that this was a totally new experience doing it, as an adult.
Yeah, it's one of those things where usually when you drive to a place where you're going to have like spectacular natural views, you can typically see it from far away because it's like a mountain or something.
Yeah.
But the Grand Canyon's a canyon, so you don't see that shit until you're there.
Yeah.
So we're driving, we're getting there, and then you still don't see anything. Although the scenery's still beautiful, it's not the Grand Canyon.
Right.
Then we get on the shuttle, and the shuttle's taking us, and then all of a sudden, you're like, oh shit,
Whoa,
it's
look at that.
huge. Yeah. It's so big. It's insane.
Now, what do the kids think? Because sometimes I wonder, like, especially the age group that you guys have, is it like, oh, cool, we're on to the next thing, or were they really like into the whole thing? Like, how'd you guys feel?
Yeah.
Be honest, dude. Don't bullshit.
I think that we were trying to get them from climbing on everything on that particular trail because like the consequences of falling over the side were like dire. So I was like really stressed out, like. On the way down, especially just because it was slippery and it was slick in certain areas, and then I know my boys like will just go on a tear, start climbing on everything, and like boulders would start coming down or whatever. I was like worried about all these things, but they were loving it. They were having a good time. They were just like. I think on the way down, everybody loved it, and then on the way up, obviously, that's where all the work is.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we were starting to get some burnouts.
Well, like my son and Doug's daughter are almost the same age. They're both like new teenagers or whatever. And when you're that age, it's cool, I guess, kind of, but you're kind of like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And then the little ones are just, they want to climb shit, and then on the way up, the kids are just, you could tell they're like tired.
Yeah, they're just fried.
So at one point, my daughter, she kept stopping, and she's like, I can't move anymore. My legs don't work. So so at one point, I'm like, all right, if we go from this point to the top.
This was brilliant move on your part.
I said, because I knew we were going to do it anyway, right? I'm like, if we make it from here to the top, I got all the kids together, without stopping one time, you guys will be able to have whatever dessert you want for dinner. And they were like, what?
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, they powered
all of a sudden,
all
everybody's got turbo button behind them.
Yeah, and everybody's climbing their way
That's all
up.
we had to say? Holy shit.
Yeah, that was all it was. But no, that was awesome that day. It was hot and exhausting, but that was a lot of fun. Then we did Sedona the next day, which is gorgeous. Gorgeous town, gorgeous landscape.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, I had seen some pictures on Instagram of people going there and everything, but I didn't even realize, like, the landscape there was just like amazing to look at. Like, it was totally like I was thrown back actually at how beautiful it was.
Yeah,
there.
so that was we were walking through the town. That was fun. And then on the way back, Justin's like, dude, I saw some great places to park on the way back where there's like creeks and stuff that we can all, go check out. I'm like, that's a great idea. So we're driving down. I'm following Justin, and Justin finds a spot, pulls over. We all pull over. And then, now Justin's like full on mountain mode.
I went mountain cholo mode.
Yeah,
I was just going to ask you. You kind of grew up like me, where we're a little more country.
Yeah.
And this guy's like city folk over here. Did that stand out at all?
Well, yeah. And at first too, like there's a park there that's like Slide Rock Park or whatever. We thought about going in. You had to pay like $20-something to even get. I'm like, dude, you got to pay money to go down to the creek. It's bullshit. So we like turned around and then we kept going. I'm like, I know another spot along the creek we could just stop and go down there,
right.
And like just trailblaze. And so that's exactly what we did. We found a spot where they had like a picnic area, and then there was like some off the beaten path like trail that led down to the creek. So we just went for it.
Fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, there's all these like crazy gnarly rocks. It was super steep.
First of all, you have to climb down to get to the creek, first of all. I thought we were done. I'm like, okay, we made it. We climbed down.
Yeah.
No. Now they're going to fucking walk across a log that's over the creek on two sides. Then they're going to climb up the freaking mountain. Then they're going to climb over to the other side of the river and go on other big boulders, and they're hopping across. And I'm like, dude,
bro.
my anxiety was fucking going insane, dude.
He was sweating like out his eyes. Like,
Dude.
I was like, and I looked over, and Sal would just be like over here, just like holding onto a rock, like watching like every move, like with Alicia. And I was like, so I saw that, and I was like watching her specifically because she was like by herself, and I'm like, like making sure, like, she like had somebody like close by, so because I could tell, like Sal just has anxiety.
And
attack.
Jessica's a monkey too. Jessica likes. In fact, she climbed a fucking tree at Grand Canyon and was doing pull-ups on it. And I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
this thing breaks. We're all dead. But she did the same thing. They're all climbing. I'm like telling his kids, don't do that. No, step down. Jess is looking at me like, brother, my kids.
I'm like, dude, they're gonna go.
Yeah.
And then they did. They just went like crazy, like climbing on everything.
Yeah, so I literally I climbed up to this on top of this rock, and I'm just standing there just watching them all do this and just like doing my freaking breath work. Like,
yeah, it's gonna be okay. But like that was probably
the best part.
most fun they had, which is the funny part.
Yeah.
You've been on quite the tear ever since you and Jess did your backpacking trip up to when we went up to Washington.
yeah.
Since then, you've been on this nature guide.
Well,
dude.
it's first off, we live in a
Seeing the Mountain Cholo side of things.
yeah, we live in an incredible country. This country's so big, and there's so many incredible things to see. And I just feel like, I don't know, I like nature because you go out there, it's quiet, it's just you're in awe of what you're seeing. It's just a different feeling. It's different than when you go to, like, big cities too are cool too, but it's a different feeling, right? It's different than all that. And I think it's good for the kids. I loved seeing the kids just play and hang out together. And I love kids. So this is my first time really spending a lot of time with Justin's kids and with Doug's daughter.
Yeah, same.
And so, and I'm going to warm them up a little bit because I love squeezing and just messing with kids. So a couple times I mess with his boys a little bit and they get kind of embarrassed.
It took especially my youngest a little while to warm up.
Yeah, he walks out. He walks out of the bedroom with his shirt
don't touch
off.
me.
Yeah,
he's kind of like I was, as a kid, like, oh, yeah. And then he finally was like, okay, you're cool.
He walks around with his shirt off like this.
Yeah, he does. He does do that. He does like the Conor McGregor walk.
Justin has that walk.
I know,
every once in a while.
Oh man,
Yeah.
do I really?
Yeah, when you work out, you get all puffed up.
Well, let me see your little muscles, bro. Well, let me see your little muscles.
Gets
He's
that from dad.
squeezing his little biceps.
Yeah, he's pretty yoked right now, dude. Yeah,
It was pretty funny. And then Justin's oldest, is like Mr. Science Facts, which I was like totally identify with.
You guys hit it off.
Yeah, he's like, did you know that lizards, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool.
And he's like all trying to entertain, like,
my
your
daughter. Oh, bro, there's a little flirty stuff going on there. It's just pretty funny. I was getting ready to read them the scary stories, so we turned off all the lights, right? And I had that book, Scary Stories, from when we were kids.
Yeah.
Which is fucking terrifying. So I found the least terrifying one that has a jump at the end. So I figure if I make them jump at the end, they'll laugh and then kind of get over it. Versus like a creepy story that just ends.
Right.
And then they're thinking about it all night. So I found one that was. It's the one about the kid that picks the toe from the garden and then the guy comes and tries to find it or whatever. So I'm reading this. So I'm getting ready to read the story. Lights are off. And Justin's in the bedroom giving his youngest a shower or whatever, getting ready, putting his pajamas on. So I'm just sitting there waiting. And his oldest is just making my daughter fucking crack up. He's like walking by doing these funny things. And she's like,
he's like doing the worm.
Doing the worm on the ground. Oh my God, you're so funny. And I'm like,
Bro,
look at this guy.
Running game.
He does that at school, dude, all the time. Like, and there's a group of girls. He's like, hey. And he just has this whole like fucking act he does. I'm like, wow.
It's so great, dude. I was watching.
I didn't teach him that.
Yeah, I was loving
It's
it.
Bay, bro. It's in the DNA.
I guess. Like, it's got passed down. The hound doggy.
You'd be great in-laws, so whatever.
Yeah, that's
Let's
true.
start planning.
I'm okay with it.
As long as he doesn't mind marrying a crazy Italian girl, it's all good.
All right. Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Anyway, so now what did you guys do? You guys went up to.
We were up in Tahoe,
right?
Yeah, we went up to Truckee. It's so funny too. We're talking about all this outdoor stuff. I grew up like that and hated it growing up. I just nothing to do. It felt like, and it's funny that how things have come full circle. That I look so forward to going on a trip like that where we just get away from the city, detached from everything. I literally put my phone down for the entire 4 days that we were up there. I didn't use it at all. It wasn't on any social media, and just that alone was incredible for me. But we really didn't do that much. It was just me and Katrina, and then we had my best friend Justin and his wife.
With the baby, right?
With the baby, yeah. So it was us, the four of us and a 1-year-old hanging out.
Now, how was that watching the whole? Because you got to sleep there, so you saw the baby in the morning, at night.
Yeah, and you know what? So the day before, well, first of all, we had planned this trip a couple months ago, and we were all lined up to get a place there. And Enzo heard that I was going to Tahoe over in Truckee area, and he's like, "Dude, that's where our cabin is. Do you want to use it?" And I'm like, "Sure, man." I said, "Do you have enough rooms?" This, that. And he's like, "Yeah, I think there's enough rooms for you." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." And so he asked his dad. His dad's all cool about it. They even made I thought they VRBO'd it because he sends this link that shows when you get there, check the
instructions.
Yeah, right. And he's like, "No, it's my mother-in-law. She's hella extra like that, bro." I was like, "Oh, so no one stays here?" He's like, "Yeah, no." But anyways, we get there, and this kid, I love this kid. Enzo's so I guess maybe he's been born into it, so maybe he doesn't think it's a big deal or whatever. But this house is it's a multi-million-dollar cabin up there.
I saw the pictures.
Oh, it's crazy. It's got a fucking river that goes down the middle of it and shit. And it's, I think it was 6 or 7 bedrooms. There's 3 of them are master bedrooms. It's just epic place, beautiful place. And pretty much empty. I mean, other than the few things they have in there for themselves and stuff like that, not that much, right? Going on in there. It's beautiful. So we get out there, and we get out a day before my best friend and his girl come out, and they text us. Hunter, the baby, has got the first fever he's ever had.
Oh man!
So he's running a fever really bad. They got cold towels on him and stuff, and it's the first time that they've had this scare. And so they're kind of worried and freaked out. I'm like, oh, I tell Katrina, I'm like, fuck, they're not going to come. I'm for sure if he's 1 and 2 months old, right? And he's never had a fever like this before. And so I'm like, they're for sure not coming. And they did. They said, we're still going to come up there anyways, as long as he's okay. If he breaks the fever, and he broke the fever, then he came up. And we had him all week, but he still was in and out of it. So
was he crying at night and stuff?
Yeah, so they had some major sleepless nights. And
is this a little fun?
Yeah.
No. Meanwhile, you're like, I got one coming.
Yeah. So I remember looking at Katrina, and the other thing that was really funny. So he's at that walk. He just learned to walk.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Right. So he
takes off
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they roll up with all their barricades. You know what I'm saying? So they get out, and it's like all the fences come with them and shit like that.
All the outlets are plugs.
Yes, yeah. The first thing they do is set the house all up to where it's like, okay, he can go here, he can't go here. Let's block this off. Let's do this. And it's like, I'm like, well, we're all here. Don't worry. And he's like, no.
No, you don't understand.
Yeah, he's like, he's fast. You'll see. And it was funny to watch that because it's so true. I would do something as simple as leaving this can on the coffee table, and then I'd be watching the game or whatever like that. And then it's like, whoa, 2 minutes, and he's sticking his finger in the aluminum. You're like, ah!
Yeah.
So constantly doing that the whole weekend. But he's such a good kid. He's so, other than the sleep issues that he had, I felt really bad for them that they were constantly going back and forth and switching. But it was cool to see the two of them. Now, out of my 2 best friends, to me, I feel like they're the most natural at it. So I'm I told you guys, I'm watching my 2 best friends who both have kids right now, and there's how they're navigating raising the 1-year-old and the 6-month-year-old. And Justin and Janet, to me, they don't freak out. They don't, even when they had his fever and stuff like that, it wasn't like, oh my God, call the hospital. We got to figure this out. They don't stress out about a lot of things. They kind of flow really well. He's already got this, he still has a little bit of a knot on his head. He was, he's walking around. And now he's running down the hallway, and he ran straight into the corner and just knocked his head, and he had this massive goose egg on it. It was all bruised. And
it is really interesting to see how parents react to situations like that.
Yeah, no, and there, and I know some. I'm sure there's people listening that are super, anal about their kids being picked up without being wiped off or their hands being washed first.
Yes.
And they get all freaked out who touches them and who carries them and does this. Justin and Janet aren't or maybe they're just not that way with me. As soon as he gets there, I'm grabbing him and flipping him around and fucking with them. And I feel so comfortable being around kids because of raising my younger brother and sister. And I don't know if that's something that they trust me more with them maybe. But
You can tell. I can tell.
I can tell the way someone holds somebody.
Yeah, and I can tell every time if someone was the oldest in their family with siblings. It's always the old, because I have a huge family, right? And so there's myself, my cousin Alex, my cousin Ariana. We're all the oldest of either 3 or 4 kids, and you can tell when we're at parties and there's babies around. If it's going to be one of us who's going to be playing with the kids or what, because we grew up with babies.
Yeah.
And then you can tell when someone's the youngest. It's the youngest is typically the ones that are kind of like, they don't know what to do.
Isolated and shit.
Yeah, like my youngest sister, because there's 4 of us. So me and my sister are the 2 oldest. We're the most baby people out of all of my siblings. And my absolute youngest sister doesn't even want to have kids. Not that she hates kids, she just doesn't want to have kids. So you can always tell, I think.
Oh, I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell by the way that you hold them, the way you touch them, the way you move with them. Like, some people think that they're like made of glass. And it's like you'd be surprised how resilient the kids are.
You learn that when the nurse comes and changes your baby's diaper for the first time.
Yeah.
They come in,
like a machine.
Watch out!
you don't have to be so robotic.
Yeah. No, that's great. So you had a good time then, man.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was really relaxing. Shout out to Enzo and his family for letting us stay at their place.
That was something that really shocked me when I first had my son, was how much stuff you have to take when you travel.
Yeah.
That one I
Or
didn't.
to the beach.
Yeah, that I didn't understand, but it's a lot of shit.
Well, this brings
Every
up,
time.
so Katrina and I, the big topic that we have going on right now is like how our families are going to interact. And, he's going through some stuff, and he shared, without getting too much into his private life. I know that they've had challenges with like different parents, like what parents are like the most, like grandparents are more the most active with the kids, and which ones are more disconnected.
You got to kind of figure out who's good for what scenario too. Sometimes, like, I have my grandparents are the morning grandparents, and these are the night grandparents.
Yeah,
these ones they stay over. These ones, I don't know about that.
And so one of the challenges that they're having, and he says one of my frustrations is that I have family really close, and they don't come over as much as I would want them to because they're kind of homebodies. And they want us to come over there, and he's like, "Man, it's such an ordeal to, to bring the kid is a fucking we gotta tote everything, all of his toys, all of his gates, all of his diaper bag. I mean, it's like it's a huge ordeal just to come over to somebody's house, and so to come stop by his grandma or grandpa's house for an hour or 2 hours is just ridiculous. It's like you guys got to come over this way, and so I know that this will be something potentially that Katrina and I are challenged with is, who in the family is going to expect us to be coming their way all the time, and who are going to be just more willing to come to our place and watch the kids. And so I don't know what kind of dynamic that's going to create between her family and my family, and who's going to. Now I know like people like my sister has already like last time she was down here, Cassie was like, "Hey, can I want to ask you guys something. If you're comfortable with it, I would like to do this." And that is, you guys have this extra room here. Do you mind if I come down, once a month and stay with you for like a week at a time, so I can be around the baby and I could come down here and
hell yeah.
Yeah, it was like Katrina and I
get a nice break or whatever.
I told Katrina, I'm like, fuck, I would love that,
awesome.
So, and it's she's 4 hours away, so to get up there to go see her would be really tough for me to do. So the fact that she's already forward thinking like that and wanting to come down, that makes me really happy. Now I wonder who in my family will be like that and who won't.
It's when you have kids too, you realize the importance of living close to family. Because when you don't have kids, it's not that big of a deal. But then when you have kids, you're like, oh man, it'd be nice to live, close to.
Well, then I see my other best friend, who's going through this right now, and they don't have anybody really close. They're all alone, and you can just tell how wore out and exhausted they are. Mm-hmm. They seem like every day they've been running a marathon since they've had this kid, and I feel so bad for them. And everybody keeps telling us like, all this shit, and Katrina keeps telling me like, "Hun, we're gonna be fine. Trust me." He's like, our biggest problem is gonna be is telling our family to like
you're gonna see a value, especially because she has such a big family that's close.
Yeah,
you're gonna
really close.
You're gonna see a lot of because how you've said in the past how it was always kind of a struggle for you going to these big family parties because you're not used to all those people.
Right.
You're gonna see the value in that.
Well,
all of a sudden,
I can already, with not even being there, I can already foresee it.
Yeah.
Right. I can already see like, oh, this is gonna be cool because I already know that she's got 2 brothers, a sister, and 2 aunts and her mom, all within like a 5-mile radius of us, and all super connected, and all like, I can't wait till this baby comes, right? And so I'm telling Katrina, like, oh man, I could totally see where when we do feel like we've been grinding for 2-3 weeks straight and not getting a break, how easy it's going to be for one of us to go like, hey, mom or aunt or sister or brother, could you come over and stay the night and hang out with Maximus for a day or two? And I don't think anybody's going to balk at it. I think it's going to be really easy for that.
You know
guy.
who's really good with kids?
Who?
Doug's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really, really good with kids.
Yeah, she is.
And she'll be right at the perfect age, right when you're ready to have
babysitting time.
Yeah, right when you want them to be babies, right when he was 2 or 3, she'll be 15, 16.
So the biggest concern I have right now that I'm trying to be proactive about, and this was funny because I've gone around like all of you guys, you know, and all my friends, and I love asking all my dad friends, like, you know, hey, what's one piece of advice, or what's something I should look out for, or what's the best or worst thing you did raising your kids? And one of the most random pieces of advice that I got that I think is going to really come into play with me in particular because of my 2 English bulldogs, and my buddy Justin was like, bro, you gotta go easy on your dogs.
Oh yeah, I get that.
And he goes, man, he's like, let me tell you, dude, I've come unglued on them a few times, and it's not their fault. They were the main attention before you had these kids, which I have very needy dogs that are like that.
Yeah, like if they bark, wake up the baby,
Yes.
or if they, do something, knock them over or whatever on accident.
Or like what he told me too. He's like, and I know this about my boys. If I skip a walk with them, or I don't spend time with them for a day 2 days in a row or something, they're awful. That's when they get into shit, or they fuck shit up, or they're just misbehave. And he's like, dude, he's like, I have the same thing. He's like, I got to go out and run my 2 because he has big dogs. I got to run them for like an hour a day. And if I don't exercise them, they destroy the house. They fuck shit up. They're annoying. And he's like, man, I just didn't realize how frustrated I would be because I'm tired because I'm giving all this attention to my kid. And that, of course, that's your number one priority. But then you have these dogs that was your number one priority before. And now you're all of a sudden putting them on and then now they're being a pain in the ass. And then he's like, so I'm already actually going to look into having somebody that I hire that can come to the house every day, and they'll take the dogs for an hour and go play with them, because I know that they won't be the number one priority is going to be Maximus when he comes into this home, and trying to manage both that might be difficult. So to me, it'd be a worthwhile investment to pay some dog walker or some kid to come on a daily basis.
So there's a strategy that I was taught when I had my daughter that I worked brilliantly, and it was taught to me by my mom and by other people who have kids. And they said, because one of my worries was when I had my son that I was going to have my daughter, and I'm like, what if he gets jealous? He's not going to have all the attention. And I think a lot of parents worry about this when they have, the second or third kid or fourth or whatever. And my mom said, include your son in everything that you do for your daughter. So like when you change her diaper, ask him to help. Can you hand me the wipe? Can you bring me the diaper? Can you watch her for me? And because they're involved, they feel like they're a part of it. And I wonder if you could do that with the dogs. You know what I'm saying?
So there is some things you do, like right away. Like I know the first thing before the baby even comes home, I'll take some of the blankets and clothes and things that he's had on him from the hospital, and I'll put it in their beds and let them smell it, stuff like that. When they first come in, I'm gonna let them sniff him and lick him and get it and get all his smells and
That's
stuff.
what we did with Remy, my dog. Yeah, and then he had like Ethan was doing tummy time and all that, and then like Remy would come by and just like watch and then like get used to it, and then they would like interact quite a bit, and then it's just the more exposure you can provide, the better they are, and they interact well.
So I definitely have plans to do things like that, but I also want to plan for, because they got to get their walks, and that's going to be, I'm sure, going to take a back burner. I know that Katrina and I plan that we're going to miss some sleep and we're going to be tired and exhausted, and the last thing one of us is going to want to do when the baby finally goes and settles down for their hour nap, we're both going to look at each other like, you need to go take the dogs. They you know what I'm saying? We'll be like fucking Rochambeau for who's going to have to do it. I can see that already. Where if maybe I'm a little proactive about it, I look for somebody who I can get to, come to my house once a day, every day, and I pay him X amount of dollars to go take the kid. I have a park right around the corner from me. Go take the dogs to the park.
That'll definitely help. Dude.
Right, and then they feel like they get their attention, their playtime. That'll leave a lot of, hopefully relieve some pressure.
Well, you know what? Doing this trip with my kids and Justin's kids and Doug's daughter, it made me, I can't wait for you to have your child, because it's great to see all these kids playing, interacting with each other, and then growing up together, because I plan on working with you gentlemen for a long time. And I think it's important that our families, and especially our children, grow up and know each other, because A, you guys are good people, and
B, they're all going to work for us.
And they're all going to work together. That's right. We got a lot of talent.
We got to start, teaching them now, bro.
That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, dude, I was buying tickets for Avengers Endgame to watch the movie. 3 days before.
All sold out, right?
Bro, the movie is already out. It wasn't even the opening night. 3 days before, all sold out. The only freaking row open in all the movie in the theaters was the front row.
No, see, that's not even worth it, dude.
No.
That's so crazy that so the reviews have already come back to them. People have watched it.
Critics are loving it. People are loving it. Everybody's saying it's
living up to the hype.
Did you hear the numbers?
No.
$1.2 billion. We haven't watched an opening weekend ticket sales this closely.
Yeah, they smashed Star Wars.
Right. The Marvel film became the first in Hollywood history to gross more than $1 billion in its worldwide box office debut. Never been done before. And all Endgame earned an estimated $1.2 billion in its first 5 days, blowing past previous record holders thanks to the unprecedented demand in the U.S. and in China. Yeah. It's been. They said some of the theaters just stayed open around the clock, 24/7.
Wow!
And just opened up more time. So on every hour, the show was being played.
I had no idea it was that popular,
dude. They said this in this last weekend. 90% of all ticket sales went to that movie.
Wow,
that's crazy.
You know what's funny is when they do the numbers for going to the movies, because that whole going to the movies is in many ways dying, but in other ways it's not, right? Yeah. When they do the numbers for it and they say, no, it's not dying because the total ticket sales, that only goes to like one or two movies. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think a lot of other movies are doing anything.
No, not like
there's
that.
There's nothing like compared to that.
Because I wonder how much, what's the typical weekend for all movies do? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it probably blew out all that stuff. Here's another
$1 billion.
Here's another cool stat along those lines, especially for us and those that are listeners of ours that took the advice when we talked about going out and buying Disney earlier this year.
Did it go up?
Oh, dude! So Disney last year earned $985 million in profit from last year's Avengers: Infinity War. So, and this is projected to hit $2.5 billion is the projected number. So Disney is going to make a fuck ton of money.
Wow.
Yes, a fuck ton of money.
Well, I'm going to keep buying more Disney because I bought some last year when we all started hearing about all the shit that they were buying and taking over.
Dude,
Disney's going to be huge. That's a huge opportunity, I think.
Well, they bought everything. Simpsons, they acquired just recently. What was the other one? Another, everything that we grew up with that had appeal for kids and adults, they just decided to acquire.
When you have a movie this big, though, so think about it this way. They've set themselves up for 50 years. A movie this big, worst case scenario, they can do another Avengers 15 years from now when all the kids grow up, and they'll have another guaranteed audience. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's cool because I was reading, I think it was Fast Company, and they kind of did a breakdown of how Disneyland and Disney World are evolving to cater to new types of events, like VR type things and different ways to experience entertainment at their theme parks. And so they've actually invested quite a bit of money in one of the rides that's coming out in the Star Wars part of the Disneyland park. Thank you. Can't fucking think of the name for it. Yeah, it's the one with the Millennium Falcon, and so it's not just that. You know how Star Tours you'd sit there and you'd experience it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this one you actually can control the ship, and so they actually gamified the whole thing. So you're actually you're driving it, and you're also part of the whole experience. Which is really
rad,
cool.
Rad.
Yeah, and so they're working on a lot of that. It was interesting too because I started reading this article because it was all about J.J. Abrams, and I wanted to see if I could get any kind of insider information on the latest Star Wars 9 because he actually got pulled into that project late. First it was the guy that did Jurassic World that was the director, and then they brought him in to kind of save the day. And J.J. Abrams is an example of somebody who is a producer in Hollywood that is going in a different direction than everybody else trying to bite off of Netflix and go in that direction.
So talking about Disneyland theme park, right? we randomly were actually looking this up. My sister is a diehard Disneyland fan. She stopped by and said hi while we were out in Tahoe, and it got us talking about Disneyland, how amazing it is, and all this shit. And I was showing her and somebody else like all these secret things about Disneyland that people don't know. And I found this YouTube clip, and it was like the 13 secrets about Disneyland. A bunch of them I already knew about. One of them I did not know this. So all of Disneyland, there's massive underground tunnels.
Oh yeah,
like there's a whole nother world underground under Disneyland, and what they have designed. So check this out: you guys have never seen anybody change the trash at Disneyland before. You know why? Because every trash can
goes under,
gets sucked underneath when it gets full. Yeah. So as soon as the trash can gets full, there's tubes and they go underneath. And
it's like that office thing where you send the letter through.
Is that real?
Yes.
Is that real?
Yes, bro.
It's so it just sucks the garbage out.
I just see people picking it up, but not like taking it out.
You'll never see someone take the trash out. Take the trash out because it has each trash can all out the theme park has individual shuttles that shoot it down underground.
It's like the Willy Wonka factory.
Hold on a second. So you're telling me that if I wanted to like infiltrate the underground, that I could do like I could be like one of those, what is that, like the Ocean's 11 or whatever. I could like go through the garbage.
Wow.
It's true.
Wow.
It's patented automated vacuum assisted collection
thought of everything. They're so like efficient and everything. Even the way that they park everybody.
You would never know though looking at it.
No. Yeah. So the trash empties itself.
Yes.
Wow.
Is that not brilliant or
Tell
what?
me that wouldn't be a smart something in a movie though, right? Someone trying to, get into Disneyland, they could like go through the garbage. Underground. We can control
I made it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, no, like what I was trying to talk about with the J.J. Abrams was like, so you know how Tom Bilyeu is trying to structure this whole thing where he's trying to merchandise and like kind of create content that's unique and all this kind of, so Bad Robot, like J.J. Abrams' company, like he produces all this content. He's did Alias, Lost, all this kind of stuff for TV. He's done all these movies for big studios like, Fox and, Disney and everybody else. But he's thinking now of just like doing it all out of his own studio, out of his own thing. So he's going to structure it where he has Bad Robot. He has, not only does he have like the movie part of that, but also the TV. He also has Bad Robot, like a music studio company. He's also has like video game and toys. And so he's like going all the way from, they've already started production of like this toy that they're going to plan on bringing through all those different channels that they own all the rights to this whole process. So it's like,
wow,
he's building and developing like the ultimate creative,
that's brilliant,
like company that like all in-house.
Well, it makes sense because you figure like you want to sell a toy, you make movies around it and TV around it, and then you make
Yeah, he has like that whole chain of all those things like strung together. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how many more companies are going to try doing something like that.
Oh yeah, he's the first big name that's really gonna. I guarantee he's gonna pull it off.
So you guys have both been to Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
Have you been to Disney World?
No.
Disney World's fucking rad.
Huge, right?
Huge. Epcot Center, insane. But here's the big thing that you notice about Disney World: massive people everywhere.
Yeah,
there are traffic jams with scooters, the
rascal scooters.
Yes, and they're not like disabled; they're just obese. Yeah. Oh, wow. And there's literally, I remember when I went like, I want to say I went maybe 7-8 years ago, and these little scooters, there were so many of them that I would see traffic jams. Me. And I'm like, what? I saw one driving by, and I'll never forget this. The lady was, I don't know, 400 something pounds, and she had a like 100-something pound 5-year-old sitting on her lap, God. Both of them drinking these big old sodas. I'm like, this is terrible.
Wow.
But you see way more of that in Disney World, and I wonder if it's because it's closer to the south,
that,
maybe?
Yeah, it's like that Guinness Book World Records with those two big guys on the little mini bikes.
Yeah. No, those are regular sized bikes.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they are.
Those were regular.
The picture
size
of the heaviest.
Those are mini bikes.
No, the world's heaviest twins.
Yes.
They're sitting on regular motorcycles.
Oh my God.
They're just.
But that's like the norm now. It's just rascal scooters now. That's
yeah.
Well, you hit it on the head a long time ago when you introduced me to. Was it Wally? Was it Wally?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Wally that does the.
That movie made me a little sad when I saw that.
Yeah,
it was hit a little too close to home.
Yeah, see, those are regular motorcycles.
Oh my God, those are regulars. Wow.
Yeah, they were both 700+ pounds.
I thought those were mini bikes.
No, they're just big dudes.
Damn.
Yeah. No, the first time I watched Wally, of course, I've been in fitness forever, so I was a trainer at the time, and when because they all live in the spaceship, and you see all these big obese people and it kind of made me a little bit sad.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I could see this happening, one day.
Well, geez, bro, we're getting real close to the VR goggles being on your head all the time, man.
Yep.
I mean, we're not far from that. We're not far from that experience. I mean, I told Katrina I want the Oculus ones. I want to try the NBA thing out. I want to see if it's as cool as it looks.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit I want to at least try that. But it just makes me go, man, if I want to do this, how many other people want to try it?
It's
with
interesting.
video games and everything else. Like before long, they're going to be in rooms with
VR
people.
sex.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was at that CES conference, and they had this weird like gyroscopic thing that you basically you laid on top of, and then you put the VR goggles on, and you could fly. You could fly in this hang glider and do all this crazy stuff, and like every little move you made a difference, in the game. And so it was like really small movements, and so it was like hard at first, but then you started to get it, and then it was weird because it really felt like you were there. Holy shit.
There's gonna be a ton of like amazing, awesome things because of it, though. So I'm like not anti it. I'm curious to, because it's so awesome.
It'll pose new challenges,
right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to learn how to. Because what
limit ourselves.
Yeah, what modern life has done to us is it's made it to where we have to have practices around a lot of things that normally we didn't have to have practices around, like food and activity. Like you have to schedule time to go be active, which is really fucking weird if you consider all of human history. Like if you went back 500, 1,000 years and like, hey, guess what we do in the future? Yeah. We have to go to a place to lift heavy things and put them back down. And they'll say, well, why? Because that's what makes us healthy.
I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and this is what's motivated me, because I was like, I'm going to get back and do. We talked about cardio in the last few sessions. I'm like, dude, it's so like, what a fucking waste of time for me to just get on a treadmill and just do this stupid thing. Like, why don't I just go around, my backyard, clean shit up, and like hack trees?
Well,
that was a way better idea. It's so much more productive.
Courtney's like, go do more.
Yeah, no,
go do more
I didn't want to like.
So I had a similar thought, right? Because especially since I've been doing like all this swimming and rowing, and I was thinking about this stuff. I'm like, man, I'm doing like this like laborious stuff for an hour now, and it's just straight cardio. Like, what if I could find somebody who I could just go chop wood on the weekends, and they would let me come chop wood and pay me like
I fucking love chopping
like a low
wood,
wage.
Oh, you want to go get a job chopping wood?
Yeah. Hey, go chop some wood and make some money on the side.
And then knowing you're such a good employee, you'll get real good at it.
Yeah, no, I totally would. I would be wanting.
Nobody's paying you to jump on a treadmill,
right?
You know what I mean, like,
yeah.
what's the point?
That's what made me think about it. I'm like, why would I go do that? I could probably find someone who I could.
Why don't you just hook up a generator to your fucking rower and just store some energy for your house?
There's a place like that in Oregon.
A gym, right?
Yeah, they actually do store your energy.
The eco gym.
Yeah, but I think they're trying to make it where you can actually like get paid for the amount that you store.
Are you sure that was my idea for a gym a long time ago?
Technology's not.
Yeah,
there,
no,
right?
I know. I think somebody's tried to do it.
Like, to me, I think it would be so brilliant to attach everything from weights to machines to the treadmills. And all that laborious stuff that you do
generates
energy, and you have a membership price, and then there's a threshold that if you hit that, anything over that, you start to reduce your dues.
And then all the idiots will be like, oh, like you're exploiting your employees, but because everybody's on there just trying to keep the lights on.
Well, what'll happen then? Nobody will want to do heavy lifting. It'll all be high rep shit because you're trying to generate more energy.
Right. Oh, unless you calculate some sort of a volume matrix into it, right?
Maybe.
Right?
Anyway.
Mind Pump Gym.
Yeah, exactly.
This quaz brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout.
Our first question is from Andrea. What is a great exercise to get arm definition?
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm about to give you the one exercise that'll give you the most arm of any exercise. I like this question because there really is no specific answer to it, just like most of these fitness questions.
Especially just arm.
Yeah.
It's not even like a muscle.
But you know what? The reason why I picked this question is because I get asked this all the time. I've been getting asked questions, and it's similar ones, right? Like, what's a good exercise for ab definition? What's a good exercise for definition on my legs or whatever? Sure. So it's two things you want to understand. First and foremost, if you don't get lean, you're not going to get definition. So body fat is what prevents you from seeing the shape and lines of your muscles. So you have to get lean. So that's number one. And that's really a big role in that is your nutrition, how you're eating. Now, as far as exercise is concerned, there's a lot of myths surrounding what exercises will make you the most defined, and they usually revolve around lightweight, high repetition exercises, right? Like if you lift heavy, you'll get big and bulky. If you go light and do a lot of reps, then you'll get a lot of definition. Actually, the opposite is true. The more you develop your muscles, aka the bigger they get, the more definition you'll see at higher body fat percentages. So in other words, a bodybuilder with really, really big muscular arms, his arms are going to look leaner at 15% body fat than some guy who's skinny and doesn't have any muscle but at 15% body fat. So the truth is the exercises that give you the best arm definition are the ones that build the most muscle, and you need to perform them on the ways to build the most muscle, which is heavy weight.
I also have something else for this person. And I pieced it together first on myself years back. And then it's become like a staple thing that I teach clients to this day. And anybody who's listening right now that was a female competitor of mine that I coached for sure remembers me teaching this or driving this home for their program. And that was one of the best things that made my arms. Let me back up a little bit. I've talked on this show before how when I first started lifting, all I did was bis and tris. So my arms were like my thing. Like that was... I had good arms because I trained arms 3 times a week to 5 times a week, and that's all I really did. Those were for like probably 2 years. All I did was bicep and tricep, right? And so I've always had decent looking bis and tris, but I never had, like when I looked at photos and stuff like that of me in a tank top, I never had really great. I didn't think I had great arms. I had built these kind of big arms, but I didn't think I had as defined or chiseled looking arms as I would like. And the main reason why that really was because I actually neglected how much I trained my shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
And when I began to develop my shoulders, it blew me away on the way it made the rest of my arm look.
It separates everything.
In fact, today, my arms are significantly smaller. I'm probably 3 inches smaller, at least 2 inches smaller in my arm circumference than what I was in my early 20s. But my arms look, in my opinion, 10 times better than what they looked like when I was in my early 20s. Now, they were bigger in circumference, but what I didn't do is I never trained shoulders. I used to have this like, oh, well, I do chest, so I get a little bit of the anterior delt, and I do a lot of back stuff, so I get a lot of my posterior delt. So I don't really, and then I'd throw laterals in there every once in a while. Like that was all I did for shoulders ever. And it wasn't until I had that critique that I've talked about on the show where I had a female competitor in my early 20s, I asked her to look at my physique and tell me what I need to work on, and she pretty much laughed at my shoulders. And I was offended at first, but then went right to the drawing board and said, okay, I've never built a program to really develop my shoulders and see what would happen. And man, when I did, what I realized was it really brought my arms out. And I find this as a extremely valuable tip for a lot of my women, just because most women ask to have, oh, I want tone or lean arms. I want good looking arms, Adam, or I want a butt. Like those are kind of like the areas. Rarely ever does a woman come to me and say, Adam, I want great shoulders. Could we build my shoulders? Like it's just a neglected area.
In fact, when they go to magazines and they point at women whose arms, I want my arms to look like
Michelle
that.
Obama.
Always great shoulders.
It's always great shoulders.
Always great shoulders. Mm-hmm. And you're 100% right. And Michelle Obama is another great example. She's got incredible, her arms aren't that great. She has great shoulders. But so the shoulder is what really starts
Linda Hamilton.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Terminator
After
2.
Terminator,
yes. It's always
G.I. Jane
was like, I want those.
It's always great shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to me, one of the best things that you can do if you want great arm definition, ironically, is to really develop your shoulders. Work the posterior deltoid, work the anterior deltoid, start to put a lot of energy and emphasis around the shoulders and watch how much it brings the look of your arms all together.
Yeah, no, it makes a huge difference. But at the end of the day, do exercises and do them in ways that build the muscle. And I want to reemphasize this because I do see a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm doing 30 reps and 40 reps and all these exercises or more, and a lot of these short repetitive type movements, like they'll do Pilates or bar classes or whatever.
High reps, yeah.
Yeah, because
intensity.
they think that's what gives them definition.
Right.
But it's not. They have to build the muscle to make the muscle show.
And shake weights.
Next question is from G. Griff 1965. Hammer strength machines versus free weights.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys remember when hammer strength really started getting popular?
What was that? Like the 90s?
Yeah.
Late 90s or late 90s?
Yeah, I remember specifically. So this was, who popularized them was Dorian Yates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dorian Yates was Mr. Olympia during this time, and he was really well known for his massive muscular back. And he was also known for the way he trained, which was low volume, but super, super high intensity. And there was this one machine that he would always get filmed doing or pictures of him doing in the gym, and it was the hammer strength iso row. That's the one where you load the plates up on one side.
Love that.
Yeah,
And you use one. You can do one arm at a time or whatever. And so Dorian Yates, every time he was in a magazine and they'd do an article on his back because he had a crazy back, it would be a picture of him doing that. And so before you knew it, all the best gyms started pumping hammer strength machines in there, and they started kind of phasing out or not having as many of the traditional selectorized type equipment. Now, here's the thing with hammer strength. The reason why hammer strength equipment is different than traditional machines, besides the fact that you load them with plates, which I'm going to be quite honest with you, doesn't mean shit. Putting a plate on it or using a weight stack, that doesn't make a difference at all. It was a brilliant ploy by hammer strength because it looked more like free weights.
Right.
So for them, it was brilliant because it was like, oh, cool. It's a machine, but with weights
it still
on.
follows along a track.
It's still on a track. Yeah. It's still predetermined. But the difference is this. Hammer strength machines, the way that they're designed is designed so that the resistance is lighter at some parts of the rep and heavier at other parts of the rep. Mm-hmm. So because you're using a pulley or a cam, I should say, with a plate, when I'm doing, for example, a pull down, you'll notice that when you do the pull down, the weight is the heaviest at the top, which means that's the hardest part of the rep, and that's where you're squeezing. When you're doing the chest press, it's easy at the bottom, hardest at the top. Incidentally, you seem to be stronger.
Yeah. That's where those prime machines really honed in on that process of where loading the weight, in terms of the actual exercise made quite a bit of a difference with it. I actually really liked the hammer strength machines, and this is coming from a guy that's athletic, functional training based.
Well, they were the first machines to go after sports.
Yes, they were the first that actually made their way into we actually structured workouts around a lot of the hammer strength machines, and you could actually do some decent power explosive movements that were kind of sport specific that they built and developed these with. But at the same time, as much as I loved them, I definitely saw more benefit, more muscular development out of free weights.
Yeah, and the now to be clear, I think it was Nautilus that was the first machines to take advantage of making the resistance heavier and lighter at different portions of the rep. In fact, Nautilus used to have machines where you could change where you'd want it to be most difficult, where there would be a pin that you would pull.
Yeah,
and it would
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and it would change the pulley a little bit. But hammer strength just took it to a whole new level. Now, here's the thing, though. It's still a machine. It still is on a track. It's still predetermined. And I've, because I started working out again in gyms recently, here's one thing that I can notice. I can do way more volume with machines than I can with free weights. Mm-hmm. Free weights just fucking toast my body. I could do...
it's a lot more taxing.
I could do 50 sets in a workout with machines, and it's a hard workout.
It makes so much sense from a CNS level.
Yeah.
If you're having to stabilize free weight, and if you think of your analogy that I love that you always talk about is your CNS, your amplifier, and so your amp has got to send out all this wattage to all of these muscles that are surrounding the main muscle you're trying to work, and they're all having to stabilize. Mm-hmm. Where if you got the support of something being on the track, less of your other muscles have to come into play to help really generate that weight forward or backward or whatever, up or down, whatever you're doing. So it makes total sense to me why you could do so much more volume on machines is because it's just not nowhere near as taxing on the CNS.
No, I'll say this: for free weights, are superior to machines in most ways, not always, but in most ways, for a few different reasons. As a trainer, the reason why I love free weights is because free weights they follow the person. The person doesn't follow the free weights. So if I have someone who's 4'10", 6'5", it doesn't matter. What doesn't matter what their range of motion is, doesn't matter what their injury is, I can move around their body. Machines don't work that way. I'll go to the gym with a guy like Adam who's tall, And I watch Adam has to adjust his body because most machines are designed for average height.
Yeah, sometimes the machines, they won't allow you to really like adjust it to the proper height like that.
They just don't make any sense.
They don't make it, yeah.
No, they don't for a lot of people. So that's one reason. The other reason why I like free weights is there's more carryover to the real world. If I get somebody really good at lunges and squats, they just move better than somebody who gets really good at leg press or hack squat on a machine. It's just way more carryover in terms of total functionality.
Well, and again, wouldn't you attribute that to kind of what I was saying, where you have all these other stabilizer muscles that are having to incorporate work, where never in your life will you be somewhere where you're in this fixed position with all this support, having to pick something up or move it. Like, it just doesn't work that way in real life. Now, the thing though I do like you pointed out with the hammer strength is I have used it for coaching purposes. When I have somebody who is really bad mechanics and they're just all over the place, putting them on a machine like a hammer strength machine, I can put them on an area like that, and then I can get in there and I can like move their shoulder blades back or do whatever I want with them while they're on this track that's really easy, and so it's less that they got to think about and worry about. So I do like it for coaching purposes. I use the machines. I love hammer strength machines, but if you have a limited amount of time, it's an either or situation. I think free weights always wins.
Yeah, and here's an analogy I think that will make sense to a lot of people. If you think of your body as something that you're sculpting, so imagine if your body is a block of granite and you're going to sculpt this block of granite into a beautiful piece of art. You've got all these tools around you. And one of the first tools that you're going to use is going to be a big chisel with a big sledgehammer. And then you're going to have other tools that are going to be much more fine-tuned, small chisels and small brushes and stuff like that. Machines are like the small chisels and the big chisels that take off the big hunks of block. That's your free weights. So why do bodybuilders like machines so much? Because bodybuilders, by the time they're bodybuilders, they're massive and they're big and they've built a lot of muscle. They've chiseled big pieces of rock off that granite with the big sledgehammer and the big chisel, and now they're kind of working on small movements in small areas and isolating and focusing. So for the vast majority of people listening right now, the tool you should be using is the one that's going to move the most rock, the one that's going to take off the biggest pieces to sculpt and shape your body, and that's going to be free weights. Now, if you've been working out for 2, 3, 4 years consistently, and you've got a lot of experience, and you've already developed an incredible base, there's a lot of value to adding machines at that point when you're adding more volume to your workouts.
Next question is from Christy Cav 9. For someone who has perpetually yo-yoed and is always hungry, how do you get to a place where their hunger is regulated?
That's a tough one because hunger, here's the thing with hunger. A lot of things help control or regulate or tell us what to eat and when to eat. And it's not always true hunger. In fact, most of the time it's not true hunger. That's why this is a tough one, because when people tell me I'm always hungry, I can bet you most times
you're not really hungry.
They're not hungry. Yeah, it's a craving. They've either connected that food for them makes them feel better when they're stressed or when they're bored.
To be honest, the choice of words we just need to change, and I know this triggers some people, but think of it like somebody who's addicted to drugs. If you're yo-yoed back and forth, it's like you're on and off drugs all the time. And that feeling when you're coming off the drugs, that's that addictive feeling. That's what that these people are mistaking as hunger. That feeling that you have of wanting to go eat more or eat this stuff or craving these certain foods, like that's your body trying to break free of that and going through that withdrawals. And what happens is many people restrict for a while and then they fall off and they binge and they yo-yo back and forth like that because they're still addicted to all of these foods that they haven't cycled off of or got out of their system for long enough, and they're still at this point because the point that I know you're alluding to right now, Sal, is like I don't think there's anybody in the United States that's hungry. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like we unless you're some competitor that's been dieting for 8 weeks and you've been in a caloric restriction for 1,000 calories or more deficit for 6+ weeks, maybe you've felt a little bit of hunger, but most people we don't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I mean, for me, like fasting was really enlightening for that, but like this is not the type of person I would recommend to go through a fast. But just understanding like how much is tied into just your daily routine, and then hanging out with people, and then all these things that come up that food makes its way into, that you mistake that for hunger. It's just like kind of differentiating between true hunger and, when it's a convenience or it's a thing that is part of my regular routine.
I experienced, so we just had a trip, right? We were going to the Grand Canyon with the families, and we're sitting there, and at the end of the night, we put the kids to bed, and we're playing card games or whatever. And we had bought chips and nuts. We had cashews, peanuts, and potato chips. And I mean, we had just eaten massive meal. We've been drinking. Yeah. We're sitting there playing cards. The chips and the nuts are in front of me, and I'm fucking eating them.
Just eating them.
And I know if I stopped and paid attention, like, oh man, I'm full. Like my stomach's not feeling good. But if I don't pay attention, that shit's just going in my mouth, and I'm eating 1,000 calories worth of cashews and potato chips just because it's in front of me. The thing I'm going to recommend to you is this. Start to identify what is triggering what you think is hunger. Start to identify that. So start right there. So think to yourself, okay, today, here's the foods I'm going to eat. I've identified that I need to eat 1,500 or 1,600 calories today in order to be a calorie deficit. If you want to figure out how to put yourself in a calorie deficit, I will refer you to older episodes or, even recent ones where we talk about how to figure that out. But let's say you figured out that your body's burning 2,000 calories a day, so you want to be at a deficit. So you're like, okay, I'm going to schedule and plan my food so that I eat 1,600 calories. That'll put me at about a 400 calorie deficit. That means you're going to start burning body fat because you're eating less than you're burning, right? So plan it out. Now start eating it. Now, during the day, when you find yourself wanting to eat something else, stop the process. Stop. Don't just automatically react. Think to yourself, why am I wanting to eat something else right now? Is it because I'm bored? Am I stressed? Is it because I'm watching TV? Sometimes it's activities that'll trigger cravings. You don't have to be stressed or angry or depressed or any of that stuff. Sometimes it's activity. I know people that have to always eat something when they watch TV. Right. Mm-hmm. I know people that have to, anytime they go on a drive for longer than an hour, they got to have snacks in the car because it just triggers them. I know people that have to eat something when they're sitting around a table just having a good time with friends. I know people who have to eat something when, I've had clients who have to eat something when they're just at home alone. That's, I just like to snack on something while I'm reading or whatever. So stop yourself and start to identify what's going on and then figure out something else instead of it. So let's say you're stressed out. Let's say it's when you're stressed out or when you're sad. Stop. Okay, I'm not going to eat. Let me do something else instead. Maybe I meditate. Maybe I walk. Yeah. Maybe I read. Or maybe I just write down how I feel. I'm having a craving right now. It's 6 p.m. Maybe you don't even know why. You haven't identified it yet. Sometimes it takes a second for you to start to identify what's going on. But stop the process. Stop the cycle. Identify it. That's step number one. And believe it or not, that's the hardest step. Once you do that, then it becomes a little bit easier because then you get to the point where like, okay, I'm really craving something. I know I'm not hungry, but I'm craving something. I always crave something when, I'm at home by myself and I'm kind of bored. All right, let me stop this process. Let me think about what's going on. And if you still want to eat something, go ahead. But at least you're aware, because one of the biggest, I'd say, enemies of people in this situation is that unaware eating, that consistent, constant, like, before I know it, I ate, a whole bag of chips or whatever.
I love that idea of journaling. I love the idea of, if you really want to solve this, because sometimes people ask questions like this and they don't really give a fuck to try and fix it. Because to me, that's the first step. Like, really care. Yeah. Like, really care to try and get to the bottom of the stuff. If you really care, I think that's an incredible step, because there is going to be such an individual variance. Like, some people are stress eaters. Some people get to eat because they're celebrating or excited. There's going to be lots of things of why you potentially could be this person who's eating mindlessly. And one of the best things you probably can do is every time you have this, quote unquote hunger feeling, is journal and just track. And you could probably piece together what it is. Is it, oh wow, that's crazy. Every time that I talk to my partner, I freaking feel like as soon as I get off the phone, I got to eat something. Like, oh, wow, maybe they're stressing me out. I'm doing this. Or, oh, man, every time I sit down and I watch TV, I all of a sudden want to eat this. Or, oh, wow, man, every time I get done from a meeting at work, I feel like I got to eat. Like, just start tracking and journaling when you have these. And I bet you, without us, you could piece together what is probably triggering this.
And then here's another tip. Do not fill your house with highly palatable, heavily processed, easy and convenient foods. So just your house should only have, if you're this person.
Yeah, get rid of snacks.
Yeah, if you're this person, if this is you, and you're like, man, this is tough for me, only fill your house with whole foods and meals that need to be prepared, okay? Because what'll happen is, this is what'll happen to you, I promise. You'll have no snacks in the house. You'll just have meat and fruit and, foods you have to cook or whatever. And you'll sit there and be like, ooh, I think I'm hungry right now. And then you'll think like, oh shit, I got nothing in the house. Never mind. Boom. There's a hint that you're not hungry.
Right.
There's the never mind that I don't, okay, fine. I'm too lazy to fucking drive to the store to buy something or whatever. Yeah. That means you're probably, you're probably not hungry.
More often than not, I used to tell clients that there's no such thing as snacks. Clients this would be such a common writing a meal. Well, what do I do? What kind of snack foods should I get? And I go, there's no such thing as snacks. What do you mean there's no such thing as snacks? I said there's either complete meals or incomplete meals. That's all there is. Either you're eating
What about cheesy poos?
Right. You're either eating a complete meal when you sit down and eat, or you're sitting down to eat an incomplete meal. And snacks are incomplete meals. So we don't want those. We want complete meals only. And so that just making clients do that, and they're like, oh, okay. So if you're going to sit down and you want something and you want to just snack on something, no, sit down and have a meal. Make a prepared meal that's balanced. And if you really don't feel like doing that, you're probably not that fucking hungry.
Yeah, it's funny because my kids, right, they're half the time with their mom and half the time with me. And their mom, although she eats much healthier than the average person, she definitely has snacks. I have none. Like, you come to my house, oh, you want a snack? Okay, go make yourself some we'll grill some chicken up for you or something like that. And so my kids will be there and they'll be at my place half the time. And it's funny because my kids will sit there and be like, oh, I want a snack. What do we have? And I'll be like, well, I can make you this kind of a sandwich, or we can do this. Oh, I don't want that. I'm not hungry. And it's so glaring.
Yeah.
What's going on here. It's like, you're not hungry. Because if you were hungry, any food.
You wanted a little tasty treat.
Yes, you wanted an actual snack. So eliminate, get rid of those in your house. And yes, it's going to suck. You're going to have to go through a challenging period. And by the way, when you're journaling and you're doing all this, it's going to suck more before it gets better. So I want to be clear with this. As you start to do this, it's not going to be easy. And not only is it not going to be easy, but it's going to be harder than it is now, because you're all of a sudden going to become aware of all your feelings, of how you feel, how often you get cravings. In fact, your cravings may increase at first. You may get this explosion of symptoms at first because you're becoming more aware. Fight through it, continue through the process. I promise at the other end of it, that awareness is going to make it a lot easier.
Next question is from Willie Hammer. In your opinion, what career paths are in demand that include health, nutrition, and fitness? I'm a full-time local truck driver, and I've become very interested in overall health and wellness, and I've been in contact with many online schools. Just unsure what field to go in.
I was doing some reading not that long ago, and I saw that occupational therapists and physical therapists, this is if you want to go the medical route, are just
in high demand right now.
Yeah, increasing in demand because of the aging population.
Well, the aging population in general, I think, is a really good focus. If you were to consider the health fitness market as this industry is in terms of what would be the most lucrative and the most potential and opportunity there, because is it the whole baby boomer generation? They're all looking for ways to avoid pain, get back to healthy places, and if you really want to vest yourself in a lucrative side of this industry, I think that there's lots of opportunity.
But it's not just the baby boomers. You're seeing now a spike in kids that need physical therapy and occupational
that's
therapy.
True.
I love so my best friend that I was this weekend that I was with, Justin, so he's a PTA. And I think there is huge opportunity right now in that field, especially as a PTA. So obviously going to become a DPT, so getting your doctorate in physical therapy is a lot of schooling and not really an at-home get-done type of deal. But a PTA, I think you can go through 18 months of school to get certified to be able to do that, and then you work underneath a DPT. And what's happening right now is like the wild, wild west right now there. And which whenever I see that, it's what reminds me when I saw cannabis. It reminds me when I saw podcasting. There's a lot of room for someone good to come in and do things well. So what's happened is a lot of hospitals are now are outsourcing their physical therapy. In the past, it was very normal for a hospital to have like a in hospital PT clinic, and that was all kind of wrapped in the whole Medicare system, and that you would come in and your insurance would cover that. Well, what's happening is insurance companies are not wanting to cover that amount, and so it's now opened up the room for people to go and start their own, and now go to, because it's cheaper. Instead of having the facility and running it there, it's cheaper for them to have these PTAs go to the house of the person and continue their physical therapy in their own home, and they're getting better service for cheaper money, and insurance companies are willing to spend that. So that opens up opportunity for someone to start your own, or get on what he's doing. Like, he works for 3 private companies right now, and he like has a different name badge, and all he does is drive around to houses all day long. Yep. And each company, he tells the company, like company A, he says, I'm available Monday, Wednesday, Friday from these hour blocks, and they load his schedule up. And then he drives around on them, and other 2 companies, and he makes a premium rate for it because he's coming to their house, and there's lots of opportunity to do it well. And he was telling me that he's like, man, Adam, he's like, there's so much money in it right now, and so many people are doing it. He's like, there's a lot of shitty service, a lot of people that just don't spend the time. They're just trying to bust through people. Wow. And so you want an area that I think there's a lot of so much that I wanted him to do something with us. We're just not at that place where we're going to get into the medical side and the physical therapy side.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I've heard that the concierge physicians has really taken off too, like them traveling to people's houses and servicing them, or being available by text or phone or email. And
so this is the future, I think, of health for us. Like, I think we're getting to the point where the automation is getting to where, in the past, like, okay, if you want to go just ask your doctor about something, like you have something going on, you'd have to schedule an appointment. You got to wait 2 weeks. You go in to see him. He's only got a 15-minute window to see you. It's like, what does he normally do? Troubleshoots it, then sends you to a specialist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where a lot of this stuff now, if you have access, and I know some of these hospitals offer this, and some of these services where you can communicate via text with the doctors, and then like you're alluding to, Justin, the next step is that it's just kind of out.
You can even send pictures, like if you have a rat or whatever, you take a picture of it, send it to the doctor. They'll look at it and diagnose you.
So I think there's going that direction. I think there is a lot of opportunity there.
Well, especially with kids, dude.
So I'm just going to get to your point, market, Sal, that I think that there's another area I've said on the show before that I think that one of the biggest things we're going to be talking about in the next 5 to 10 years in the fitness space is physical therapy and stuff around kids. And I think it's going to be largely due to the lack of exercise, the lack of play, and the overuse of these tools like iPads and computers and phones. We've never seen a generation that was born with an iPad in front of their baby crib and old enough to get an iPhone right away by the time they're walking, and then with them their whole life. And what it's causing is a lot of postural issues and a lot of imbalances that I think are going to be a major topic for the health and fitness space.
Kids are coming in with back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, which was almost non-existent for children unless they injured themselves playing on the playground or something. Kids didn't have, neck pain or back pain. It just didn't exist. Now you're seeing a huge spike. I mean, we are literally witnessing the most deconditioned generation that we've ever seen. Yeah. And I know it's gotten worse generation over generation, but there was a huge difference. Okay, so obviously if I go back to my parents' generation, they were more physical than my generation was, right? Obviously, because they did more hard labor and all that stuff. But the jump or the difference between our generation and our children's generation is light years. It's so much bigger because we went from playing all the time to almost never playing, to the point where drive around neighborhoods, see if you see any kids outside.
Right.
You just don't. So I think there's a huge opportunity there for, that kind of therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, but specifically for working with kids, that's going to be in huge demand.
Well, and I think too, like, you know, YMCA is a good example, but I think they could do even more, like, you know, a better job as far as like availability of access to, you know, different gymnasiums in the community, or like having a gym that is just specialized around having, like, it's structured around kids play, you know, and like things like that you don't get offered anymore in schools. Like if they don't have it at schools and somebody comes into that area, you know, that privately owns a facility that addresses that problem, I think they would kill it.
Yeah, absolutely. And now here's the other side of it too. Personal training. I still think personal training is going to continue. It has grown year over year for a long time. I think it'll continue to grow. Now, the difference is that there's much more competition nowadays than there used to be. You kind of have to be pretty good, or at least specify in a particular area. I think working with kids is one way you can do it. Working with the elderly is another place you can start to put your focus. But personal training's still in demand, and I think it'll continue to be in demand for a long time. And here's a cool thing. Let's say you do want to go be a PTA, like Adam's saying. While you're going to school for that, being a part-time trainer in a big box gym,
there you go,
is a perfect. It's a great combination.
That would be perfect. I think for if I could give someone a business advice that wants to be in this space, is over the next 2 years is go to like a physical therapy school to get your PTA license while at the same time working at a big box gym part-time.
Perfect combination.
Yeah, beautiful combination.
Perfect. And with that, look, go to mindpumpfree.com and download our guides. They're all free. You can also, by the way, find us on Instagram. Justin is at mindpumpjustin.
Hi.
My page is mindpumpsal, and Adam is mindpumpadam.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.